Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars. In today's video, I'm going to be doing another one of my AliExpress guitar tool reviews. And the tool that I'm going to be reviewing is one of these nifty little under the string fret leveling beams. So what exactly is an under the string fret leveling beam? Well, it simply allows you to level your frets without removing the strings. And for some folks, that's a big advantage. Now, typically when I build a guitar, I'll level the frets long before I put on the strings. So I don't really need one of these kind of tools. However, as you'll see later on in this video, there is a use for it that I might find necessary. But typically what I do is I just use one of these big leveling beams with some sandpaper attached to it, and I'll level all the frets. And when I level the frets, I make sure that the neck is perfectly level. I'll use a notched straight edge, like this one, to determine whether or not the fretboard is level. And I'll check it, looking for gaps anywhere along its length, and I'll adjust the truss rod if necessary to get the fretboard perfectly level. Then I'll level the frets. However, there are a lot of luthiers out there who like the idea of leveling the frets while the guitar is under string tension. And the reason for that is because when you string up the guitar and tune them, it's sort of like when you draw back the string of a bow. You bend the bow back into a much more noticeable curve. You know, a bow has already got some curve to it, but as you draw that string back, that tension is pulling the ends together to create a more pronounced bow. Well, the same thing happens with a guitar. When the strings are tuned, you're putting about 150 pounds of pulling force on the headstock, and that causes the headstock to rise up, and that creates a sort of a bow shape to the neck. It's higher at the nut than it is at the center, and it can sort of slope down and then slope back up at the body. Now, that's not always the case. In some necks, that shape that is generated from string force can be unpredictable. You can get S curves, you can get all kinds of weird things going on. It just depends a lot on the wood itself and how resistant it is to the effects of string tension. But there are a lot of guitar players who like to have a little bit of bow in the neck. It's called relief. And the reason for that is when you pluck the string, the maximum amplitude of vibration is happening right in the center of the scale length. So by inducing some relief or bow in that area, you're giving the string more room to vibrate so that the string isn't hitting the tops of the frets. That's all well and good, but in reality, if you know anything about physics, it doesn't actually work that way, because there's one factor that kind of cancels out that effect of relief, and that is the minute you press the strings down to the frets and move your fingers, your fretting fingers up the fretboard, you're moving that point of maximum amplitude closer to the bridge. In fact, as you get pretty close to the body, you're well past where the relief occurs in the neck. The relief is static. It doesn't move, it's stationary. But as you fret the strings and move your fretting fingers up that fretboard, you're moving that maximum amplitude of vibration closer to the bridge and well away from where that relief occurs. So that's one of the reasons why I don't use under the string leveling, or I don't level at all with the strings on the guitar, because I'm not getting, it's not accurate. Plus, it's important to understand, once you've leveled the frets while the frets are, or while the neck is under string tension, you're essentially leveling away any benefit of having relief, because the relief will still be there on the fretboard, but it's not going to be there on the tops of the frets, because once you've leveled the frets under string tension, you've eliminated that bow shape at the top of the frets. So the frets will be perfectly level with respect to the string, but they will not be following that relief. So you're kind of canceling out any benefit of leveling under string tension. So I know still, though, a lot of folks will want to do that, and that's the reason why tools like this exist. Now, the tool that I purchased for this review, I bought this off AliExpress, and I'm going to put a link in the description below for where I purchased this tool. But just be aware that whenever I share links for products on like AliExpress, and even to some extent on Amazon or eBay, those links might go dead in a matter of days. It's just how that market works. So if that happens, you know, I apologize, but that's the breaks. But this particular tool is available in several different sizes. You can get a 4.5-inch long tool. You can get a 9-inch tool, which is what this one is. You can go to 13 inches or you can go to 18 inches. Now, I would recommend going with the longer beam if your intent is to level all the frets all at the same time. The longer the beam is, the better job it's going to do, and the quicker the job is at leveling the frets. But I opted for the 9-inch one, and the reason is, even though I said I don't use this type of technique for leveling my frets, I prefer using the beam with no strings in place, there are occasions where it might be useful, and that is spot leveling. After the guitar is finished and I've strung it up, I've tuned it and intonated it, as I test play it, I may encounter some frets or an area of frets where they're higher than they should be. Now, this doesn't happen necessarily because of how the frets were installed, although that can play into it. But there are times where after I have finished building a guitar, I'll set up the guitar, I'll hang it and let it sit for a few weeks, let it get acclimated to its strings and let the finish fully cure out. But then what will happen is there might be a change in humidity, which will cause the neck to move. And that in turn results in some high spots on the frets. And a tool like this is a quick way to fix that. However, even though I can level my frets with one of these, I'm still going to need to recrown it and then polish the frets later on. And that usually means removing the strings. So that's one of the reasons why I try to avoid doing it. Plus, when I have to spot level, I much prefer using a tool like the StewMac Fret Kisser. And I found that that's one of the most effective ways to do some spot leveling, because you can really isolate the one offending fret and fix it. But like I said, once you've done that spot leveling, whether you use the StewMac Fret Kisser or one of these understring leveling beams, you're going to have to recrown them. And the only way that I know of to recrown frets when they're on the guitar with the strings in place is to use one of these, this type of fret crowning tool where you can actually get underneath the strings to recrown them. And then you can polish them with progressively finer grits of sanding emery cloths and that sort of thing. But it kind of gets tedious when the strings are in the way. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this video or any of the videos that I produce on my Highline Guitars YouTube channel, I would appreciate it if you might consider helping to support my channel. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can click the subscribe button down below. You can also click the join or the subscribe plus button. And when you do that, you can become a member of the channel. And when you're a member, you're going to have access to my members only videos, which are versions of all the videos that I make that contain a lot more information and detail than what I normally include in the videos that the general public gets to watch. Also, you can visit my eGuitar Plans website or my Highline Guitars merch store, and any purchase you make there is going to help support the channel so I can keep making these videos and sharing my knowledge and experience with you. And then, of course, if you want to keep it simple, you can click the thanks button down below and leave a small tip in the amount that you think is fair. And of course, at the very least, if you'd like to help support this channel and not spend any money at all, please consider clicking that thumbs up button down below. Now let's get back to the video. But let me bring you in closer and I'll show you how this tool works. Now before I actually use this tool, let me kind of describe it for you. The tool appears to be extruded aluminum. It's solid and it's quite heavy, which is good because when you're using a tool like this, you want there to be weight. You're not going to be pressing the tool down. You're going to let the weight of the tool do the work. That's how you get consistent results. And in the past, when I have talked about using tools like this fret leveling beam that I use, I've typically recommended that the tool be made of steel, because if you drop a tool like this, if it's steel, it's not going to ding or get damaged easily. And unfortunately, this one is made from aluminum, so you have to be fairly careful. You don't want to drop it. If you ding this surface, the tool is useless. But when I purchased this tool and I received it, I was impressed with the overall quality of its construction. And it seems to have a good surface finish to it. It feels durable, and like I said, it has pretty decent weight. Now, you can also purchase the same design from StewMac. I paid $21 for this 9-inch model, and I know that the StewMac model on their website is, I think it's $29.99. So it's about $8 to $9 more expensive on the StewMac site. But remember, if you buy it on StewMac and you wear out the tool or you drop it and damage it, you can send it back and they're going to replace it, no questions asked, free of charge. But with this tool, if I drop it and damage it, I got to buy a new one. That's the reason why StewMac charges so much more. But when I got this tool, my first concern was how precise this surface is. It has to be precision ground to be absolutely flat. There can be no flaws. There can be no high spots, no low spots, nothing. It has to be absolutely flat. So what I did is I compared it by placing it up against a known flat surface, in this case, my precision straight edge. And it is absolutely dead flat. There are no gaps. Even when I hold it up to a light, which I can't really show you here, I can't see any light leaking through. So I'm confident that this surface is dead flat. Now the width of this portion where you're going to apply your adhesive backed abrasive sheet is 3/4 of an inch wide, or about 19 millimeters. So you'll have to find an abrasive, a sticky backed abrasive roll that is that width. And what I have is actually, I think it's about an inch thick. So it's a little bit wider than what I would normally need. But I can just simply apply this. This is I think this is 3M sticky backed adhesive or sticky backed abrasive roll. It might say on here, yeah, it's 3M. And I know that this particular roll is 320 grit. So what I'll do is I will take an X-Acto knife here, cut that off there, and then I'm just going to have to trim away this excess. But there it is, 320 grit. You could go with a coarser grit, but I typically stick with a 320. It does a good job of leveling the frets without putting scratches that are too significant. But then with the strings already on the guitar, you just simply place the strings over so that this portion of the beam is underneath the strings and against the frets. And then you would just use it like you would a normal leveling beam, back and forth. And you can kind of tell by the sound that there are some uneven or frets that are higher than other frets. You can also mark the tops of the frets with a Sharpie and then watch as that Sharpie gets worn away while using the tool. But you would work in one section, then you would move between the next two strings. And you go to the next two strings. And you would just continue that way until you've crossed the entire width of the fretboard. And you can gauge your progress, like I said, if you use a Sharpie to wear away that surface, but you can also hear it. And once it makes that kind of clicking sound. And as that clicking sound diminishes, see, I know I've got some high frets in here. And it may take a little bit of work. You may even find it necessary to go with a coarser grit of abrasive in order to get some of those frets leveled. But that's essentially how this type of tool works. And it's a little bit awkward, in my opinion, having to go, you'd work between these two strings, then you have to move it to the next two strings, and then continue on. In my opinion, it's so much easier to level the frets when the strings are not on the guitar in the first place. But I know a lot of folks will want to use it. But I definitely can recommend this tool for those of you who want to do understring fret leveling. It's a good quality tool. I would say it's every bit as good a quality as the one sold by StewMac. It just doesn't have that unlimited lifetime warranty that StewMac offers. So if that's not a concern, after all, the tool this one in particular was $21. So, if I were to drop it and damage it, buying a new one isn't that big a deal. Well, there you have it. That is my understring fret leveling beam review. And I hope you found this review to be useful. If so, give the video a thumbs up. And if you'd like to help support the channel, do all those things that I mentioned earlier in the video. I'd really appreciate it. And as always, until the next episode, take care, stay safe, and I hope you'll be back for more guitar building videos, as well as some cool guitar tool reviews.